Now we are ready for the panel discussion 2, and the theme for this panel discussion 2 is diversity, equity and inclusion, building trust and belonging. So in today's workplace, DEI is not just a checklist, it's a culture. And we have a very experienced panel here who will be pondering on this subject, this theme. Let me welcome them on the stage one by one, and I will introduce them to the audience. First of all, the moderator, Ms. Deepti Arora ji, may I welcome you on the stage. Please give her a thunderous round of applause. Ms. Deepti Arora, with over 22 years of HR leadership experience, currently serves as VP, Vice President at Mastek, overseeing global shared services and business HR for Asia, Middle East, and Africa region. A key driver of strategic HR initiatives, she also chairs Mastek's POSH committee and leads DEIB, ESG, and She Heroes forums. Welcome, Ms. Deepti Arora on the stage. To join her, two panelists, Dr. Rajani Tewari, may I request you to come on the stage. Dr. Rajani Tewari, as a Chief Human Resources Officer at reenCell Mobility, Dr. Tewari has been instrumental in cultivating a diverse, inclusive, and high-performance culture. Dr. Rajani Tewari is a purpose-driven HR leader committed to reshaping workspace culture through equity, empathy, and innovation. Please welcome her here on the panel. And another speaker for this panel discussion, Ms. Priyanka Gulati. May I request you to be on the stage? Ms. Priyanka Gulati, partner in Human Capital Consulting at Thornton, brings 25 plus years of HR and finance expertise. You would be surprised to know that it is a unique combination. She is a CA, Chartered Accountant by profession, and working very closely professionally with HR. So a chartered accountant and independent director on multiple boards, she champions women entrepreneurship, leads strategic HR initiatives, and heads FICCI's FLO's angel investing efforts. I request moderator madam to please take over and have a lively and engaging conversation.
Hello. Good? Okay. Well, very good morning to everyone. It's Saturday, and looking at the number of people attending this forum today, so it's an AMA, right? So we know that how people look forward for this conference. So first of all, thank you to Mr. Devang and Mr. Deepak for inviting me to moderate this session today, Mr. Kamal, who is our coordinator for this conference. So AMA, so if you are in Ahmedabad, and I landed Ahmedabad around 19 years, 20 years from Delhi, and settled here. So once you land here, you know that this is a prestigious institution, and I happened to attend a lot of conferences here. In fact, I was member of the library as well when I was doing my learning and development, leading the role. And I used to take a lot of case studies. I used to come here, sit here, read a lot of case studies. So a great place to be here. So thank you, first of all. And we have seen, the note on which today's conference has started. My first panel, our previous panel, has really set the ground almost on fire, thanks to Dr. Adil. So we will always now remember him as agile, drive, innovation and learning. Sir, D can be diversity also. Oh, yeah. So that will come too. That will come too. And I thought, it's a topic which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we three women actually representing this session. But I asked, so this is not by design, but by chance, I'm sure. And however, in the panel, in the speakers, in the audience, we see a lot of diversity. And diversity normally, as Dr. Venkat has rightly mentioned, at times being seen only as gender diversity and minority women, representation. But definitely, diversity is much broad and beyond the same, right? Especially in today's organization, we heard our previous panel talking about generational diversity, right? So we have baby boomers, we have millennials, and now Gen Zs being part of the workforce. And the next generation is around the corner. They will very soon hit the organization. So the organization is already challenged. Organization environment is already, we are struggling to cope up with multiple generations, and it's for good. Let me share my experience. So whatever changes that we are seeing, bringing a lot of newness also to the organization. So diversity, in my view and broadly, it's definitely gender, and it's not male, female. We see people who associate themselves with other genders also coming to the organization and part of the workforce. And we now going global. So most of us would have offices in different part of the world, and people from different nations as our colleagues, right? So there is national diversity, there's regional diversity, so diversity is it was always there. Being in India, we know, right? So when you meet, I'm from North, here in Gujarat, so my first, acquaintance with the diversity when I started working here. And then we have offices across India, and people coming up with various backgrounds and their, ethnicity and their beliefs. So definitely, it is something which it's going to stay and going to be very, very important for the organization to ponder upon and ensure that we create cultures which are more inclusive, right? Which is where we talk about equity, right? We talk about fairness. So the idea is not about now, the question is not whether we want to be diverse or not. That's not a question at all now. The question is how inclusive, how welcoming we can be to the diversity, what kind of environment and ecosystem we can create in the organization which can support, this diverse, not only people, but I think AI is also bringing a lot of diversity, right? We heard in the first session that 80% of Dr. Adil has very rightly mentioned, and Dr. Rajshri and Mr. Deepak alluded that, it's not 80% is more of, automation or the science thing which is going to get replaced, and the 20% we should be slightly more worried about and should be focusing on to remain relevant. And similar challenges with the organizations, believe me. Right, so they have people coming across from different organizations, different countries, different backgrounds, different generations. So how they can remain more competitive, leverage on their potentials is going to be a big thing as we move further. So with that, so of course I'll miss the shairi. So sir, if you remember anything on diversity, please, we'll be happy to, allude, our audience with that. So I would like, we have an expert panel today, Ms. Rajani and Priyanka. I'm sure they're doing a lot of such good work in their organizations. They come with very, very deep experience in building the organization. So I'm sure we will be able to hear what organizations are doing to build build the overall environment which is more inclusive and which can help diversity and to really leverage it for the benefit of the organizations. So with that note, I would like to hand over this to Dr. Rajani to share her thoughts on DEI.
Thank you so much. Really humbled. Before we start, I really want to do my fangirl moment to my guru in HR, Adil sir. Back in the days of SR, when I was a part of the Aegis team and you were our super boss. So when you say that, I've come to AMA and I've arrived, I will tell you that I shared a podium which you were chairing. I have arrived. Thank you. Thank you so much. More than anything, I have only learned one thing as an HR practitioner, most from you, voice. We don't have to be echo. So the thumb rule for diversity is you can't be an echo. You have to be your own voice. And there have been times when we look up to leaders, and I always say, leadership is not just maturity, it is the depth. And a deep leadership will always tell you what will be a progressive mindset for a sustainable future. You may want to do a lot of things, but are you prepared? Do you have the appetite? Back in those days when kings would have elephants at home, they had an appetite to feed them. Then people said, move them down south to temples. Because temples get a lot of donations. They can really take care of them. And people were taking care and they thought we cannot keep an elephant at home, so let's go to the temple, donate, and that is what? That is what is thinking beyond your today. Diversity is all about beyond today. At every workplace, I always share, I always urge everybody that maybe you may have small counts in terms of whatever form of diversity you want to do, whether it is gender, age, skill, mindset, dyslexical thinking, challenges otherwise. But what is the core? How prepared are you? How prepared are you to embrace? Because we are still so stuck in our own normal. Because we have defined a normal. Why a separate word to get a different generation and workforce? The normal is so not normal in our mind. And I have recently also, I had penned down something on the breaking jinx of the normal. Because what you think you carry is normal may not be so normal for other person. And that is where the whole game, the whole ethos of diversity lies. The minute you say there is a differential workforce, you will have to give them differential treatment. There is a challenge because you're not accepting them. You're creating a new world in your world. So how will you sustain that? Because the business is about profitability, efficiency, and this is not what you want to do. You want to be sustainable, right? You like that black balance sheet. You don't like the reds. I'm in an industry, representing an industry where at least for the first 7 years, it's very difficult to see a black balance sheet because it's an asset-heavy business. It is a business which needs a lot of foresight, electric mobility. The government of India today is putting a lot of thought behind it. And just to move to a little 30-second deviation on that, I represent an organization today which is here to transform the face of road mobility. We are a very densely populated country, and everybody taking out their own vehicles is not the solution for future. In any case, in terms of the logistics, the climate, everything. And that's where passion with purpose is how I defined my journey with reenCell. We came together, we said we will define road mobility for the entitled India today, because the youth today does not even want to watch a movie 1 week later than the global release. We see everything together. So why would we want to do that? We would not want to do that. We want everything together. So if you want everything together arrive, then what do? Don't do diversity. I have a lot of forums. We've had some kind of a not so pleasant discussion with a lot of colleagues chairing from very reputed organizations where the numbers look very high. But when you ask them, what is the skill drive you do for this diverse population? It is housekeeping, back end. What's the fun? What's the fun? So the challenge and the fun and the zest is when you get somebody to compete with you, and it's not a competition of equals, because life is not a competition of equals. Your starting point was 10, mine was 20, yours was 30, and yet we are racing, right? We're all racing. So for us, I was very clear as a person driving it. I thought that, not just reenCell and otherwise before, but the organizations prior to that, I was very lucky, I was very blessed, because these are organizations which are very gender heavy in terms of how we define or backdated define diversity as gender. So I was representing healthcare. It's run 90% by women, because who can give compassion and care as a woman? So obviously hospitals run like that. And then I was with education, to teach with patience. So we teach and spouses teach, and then you know the choice, who the child wants to learn from, and who is more corrective or who's more cognitive to drive that. So obviously it came naturally. It was 90% bend of workforce was women. Here I enter mobility space where there was no women. I was the only woman in the leadership team, and talking to a board also filled with men, a board, all the BODs, and we were like thinking, okay, now what do we do? So for 1 year, the whole emphasis was on preparedness. People accepting that there can be women who can do a particular job. It has been a journey. It's been good 4.5 years today at reenCell, but a journey which is worth all sweat, worth the dreams. Today we have a good workforce, highest in mobility in terms of gender. And when I say gender, I include women, the other genders. And we have other genders working in supervisory roles. So I have the first LGBTQ kind of a staff in mobility who is driving customer excellence in depot. So it's a big thing when you ask your customer to talk to a person who is not so acceptable and normal in the society, but she's doing terrifically well. We have somebody in HR, and so on and so forth. So diversity, inclusion, equity, everything works together. Do not compromise on merit. Without compromising on merit, you can really do a lot. The only thing is, I think today, the world is more open because our children are brought in inclusive schools, so they accept. What we were scared of, they accept. They understand. They understand what is pride. They understand such concepts in school. So, on that.
Wonderful. Great. So great insights from Dr. Rajani, and I completely agree when she said it's not echo, it's voice. And then diversity is much beyond, gender, and the great work that she's doing at reenCell to bring that diversity representation. So thank you for your thoughts, and we'll move to Ms. Priyanka for her thoughts on the subject.
Thank you, Deepti, and thank you, Dr. Rajani. What I'm going to do is bring to focus 3 stories. The first one is about my young boy, 9 years old. We are a cricket-loving family. And if you heard my introduction, I've been in diversity section plus 25 years, come from a family where gender diversity, women have been working, there are no biases, and therefore it's a very open culture where my husband and I look at work in terms of who's better at it and who's going to do it. So it's super equal culture. I have been working on this subject for 25 plus years. I would assume my 9-year-old will be super open and great. We're having a cricket match at home. My husband is not available. I take the bat and tell him to bowl to me. To my dismay, he says, "Can you bat?" He was just, at that time, he was 4 years old. A 4-year-old telling his mother, can you bat? I was surprised. I was shocked. What diversity, equity, inclusion. I speak on panels. I represent India on breaks. I've been doing all this work in corporates. Is this a sham? I genuinely questioned myself while I'm questioning the technology here right now as well. I genuinely questioned. It was a moment for me, Deepti, that how can my 4-year-old come and tell me, can I bat? What is it that is coming in his head? And he says, do women really bat? I was like, where is this coming from? He's not even gone to school right now. So it can't be school which is influencing it. We are at home, which is very open, inclusive culture is what I think. So where is this coming from? And he says, I've seen Dhoni, I've seen Virat. The television that we see at home is all Indian cricket. We follow it to the T. We don't miss any match. This was, 5-6 years back when women's cricket was not that big. And therefore, it was the TV that he was watching. It was the culture that we had created at home unknowingly. Where we were talking about the World Cups, we were going and viewing all the men's World Cups without knowing it. Even I didn't realize what I was doing. So the point being gender or thought diversity or any diversity you talk about, it's not necessarily that there's an intent which is wrong. There are unbiases which are in our head which do come out every day, not just at work but at home, and it starts from home. I'll take another example. AI. We've been talking about it since morning that AI is going to remove the diversity. I'll give you an example. We were doing an AI project for recruitment for our client, and this was for a leadership role, and we had put in, I think there were around about 250 resumes which were put in, and we filtered it down to 10 to 12. To our amazement, all the 10 to 12 were men's resumes for that leadership position. And we went back and saw that why is that happened? Because right now we are at a stage where we manually check it as well while the AI is working, because we want to make sure that everything that we are thinking about, we've put it in the system. And therefore the manual check was different. Went back in there again. You know what? To our dismay, the algorithms that were written were to such an extent that the competencies selected and the way the things had to be selected were the men's resumes. And that had to be gone back and checked again. It happened with one of the large e-commerce retail company in India as well, and they went back and checked it. Third story, I was telling a story to my niece, and I went to ChatGPT, Adil. We all love ChatGPT. I was a little lazy. She wanted a very innovative story. It was late at night. Had come back and put in a story. Okay, doctor, nurse, kuch to story batao ChatGPT. Interesting, something different other than Cinderella and other things. Again, the doctor is a man and the nurse is a woman, even in ChatGPT. You go ahead and I went further. I was like, story chodo, let's look at independent directors, let's look at this, let's look at that. And again, it was all about men being, and this is just gender. My last story for the day, and I hope in my questions I don't bring out many more stories, but last question of the day, there was a panel that was happening. I'd invited them for dinner. I didn't know the panelists. This was in Delhi, my hometown, and I thought it was near my home, so I was like, let's for dinner just meet up. And I invited all of them. It was, I thought, a nice gesture from my side. And there's a very good friend of mine now. I didn't know him then. And he came in, and there was no way for him to enter my house. And we have a house, and it's not like there is a staircase. It's a little, step up like the stage here. And he's handicapped. He's on a wheelchair. We had to literally borrow a ramp from somewhere. It took an hour for him to come in. And the least I could have done is just checked if somebody needed something and get to know them a little better before inviting them. I was checking on the food, I was checking on all the usual things that you check on, and I did not check that this gentleman was on a wheelchair. This is me, who leads diversity for 25 plus years, making all these mistakes at home, at work, everywhere. I don't know what the world does. So I'm just going to leave and make you pause and think and reflect on that note. I'm also going to take 2 seconds more, Deepti, with your permission. The lady up there, she wanted to ask a question, and unfortunately, fortunately, the gentleman got the mic. I'm going to just ask you to take that courage to ask the question, even if it's, if you want to. I'll give you, to the previous panel, which is sitting right there. With your permission, Dr. Adil, and with Deepti's permission. Thank you.
And you're right, I was insensitive because I had actually seen her and just lost.
You know, that's why I took my own stories. It's not about the insensitivity which is there, which we do with intent. It is subconscious, unbiased, and all of us are doing it. So this is not to point a finger at anybody. It is all about us. धूल चेहरे पे है, आईना साफ करते रह गए. I'll leave with that. The lady down there, if you're still there and you still want to ask a question, I would request somebody to pass the mic to her. Or you can use your voice, as you rightly said.
Good afternoon. I'm Suhani Israni and I work for talent management in the HR domain. So we were talking about developing resilient leaders in our last session. My question would be if we could get some HR practices which are relevant today, which would help us in this domain talk of developing resilient leaders. Because that is something which is a part of change management and is not easily accepted by the leadership team. So if I could get some thoughts on that. And thank you, ma'am, for giving me that opportunity.
So your question was on developing resilient leaders. So there are different ways organizations do, and I believe in only one method. One is, of course, you can do a lot of training and all, but more important is put people through experiences. Very often what happens is, as we move through our career, we get into our comfort zone. And when we get into our comfort zone, we don't experiment something which is new, which is unpredictable. And if you observe leaders who have risen to the top, whom all of us admire in our respective organization or wherever, they have always, traversed their way where there were a lot of unpredictability. And the more you are able to go through that, because there is always a fear of failure. If you overcome that fear of failure, take the unknown thing, go through it, you'll be a more resilient leader. And that initiative has to come from the person himself or herself. That's the only way to build a resilient leader. You cannot, and the future will be more uncertain. Avoid ducking the problem, go through the problem, you'll be a better performer. That's my take on it. I would give it.
My sincere apologies that I missed you out. Have you read this very beautiful book by Nicholas Taleb called Fooled by Randomness? That book says that actually most leaders fail because they believe that what helped them succeed the last time will continue to make them succeed the next time and the next time, but they don't realize that randomly the universe had conspired at the previous point of time to make them succeed. All the elements which need to conspire don't necessarily combine to give the same results the next time. So don't be fooled by randomness. Resilience is about finding unique solutions to the unique challenges you come across, and not finding the same random solution each time you face a challenge. So that is how you develop your resilience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you both of you for your lovely thoughts.
Well, great. I think, Priyanka, you have really shared some very, very, important instances, and we all face it day in and out. It's not about missing only a, female, but then most of the time, unconscious bias, right? When your son thought that, cricketer means a male, Similarly, when we talk about, AI developers, most of the time our picture will be that some men sitting in the room, doing some great work on technology, but it's not true. We recently did one session on unconscious bias, and we could showcase a lot of women who are actually doing breakthrough through such technologies as AI developers. Similarly, we have so in our all conversations as well, when the session begin, employee is invariably be addressed as he, right? So when we say that, so when we talk about employment and employee who are working in the organization, so the pronoun that we normally use that he instead of she. So these are some very, very small but very important indicators that as a society we still need to be more inclusive, though the intention of everyone, and believe me, in my career, so I have been supported and mentored some great mentors as men, right, who have not seen me as a, as any particular gender when I was, and just the potential that I can move up the ladder. So I would say that the intention might be right, but we might need to put slight more effort in erasing and rebuilding the unconscious bias that we normally carry. So very important. With that, I would like to move to our first question to Dr. Rajani. So there's a lot of initiatives, right, nowadays organizations are taking, right, saying that in name of DE&I or DEIB, right, but then most of it is tick in the box to be more compliant, right? But then do you really see some genuine matrices or examples where organizations are actually genuinely putting an effort to become more diverse, more inclusive, and have fairness, that is equity in the organizations?
So like I said earlier also, you could do a lot of initiatives, but do not compromise on merit, because that would compromise on efficiency, and ultimately you'll not be able to sustain. However, some good initiatives, at least we start Charity Begins at Home, we tell what we do. We try and hire a mixed representation, whether it is in terms of gender, region, skills, and that good combination and age. All this four put together gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of managing a hybrid workplace, in terms of managing an environment which is more conducive. Each department with us, we try and also say that if this needs investment and this person can be future ready. So we do have, there are some departments where we started in fresh, like battery optimization, vehicle technology, contract manufacturing, very, very unique in their own way. And maybe like we genuinely get confused. A lot of times when we say we ask for equality specific to gender, people think it is muscle equality. It's not like that. It is cerebral equality. So if today you being a woman is a CEO somewhere, somebody will say, oh, how did you make it? But you would not ask the same question to a man. That is there. So initiatives have to be that can you build in a pipeline if there is not one, if you really want to work towards it. So that is what we did. In skill diversity, we went to ITIs because you will get IITs. But you know, the appetite and hunger of an ITI will be much more. He or she doesn't have. They don't have opportunity. And that opportunity, when given, will be filled with gratitude and a sense of belongingness and pride for the organization. Today, the maintenance pipeline, which we have built in at reenCell, that vouches for it because you have you've actually helped the economy. You've killed that dependency on a country like China, which was helping you with battery maintenance all this while. So you were dependent that you will call there, wait, parts would come from the port, and so on and so forth. We're not 100% there. It is a journey. It'll take time. Third is, when you know that you have a woman in your team, what is that you're doing differently? So the first thing is, initially, a lot of people, especially in the OEM manufacturing space, the contract manufacturing space, would come back and say, I can't work. She cries. So I said, she was just crying when I was a little rough. And you know, it's just so normal when people say that, right? My only question was, you shout when you're upset. I cry. We are both expressing. Who defines what is right? So, I mean, the answers are with us, like Priyanka said. The answers are always there with us. It is what is your perspective towards the whole thing. Also, if you want to build in a good DAI journey, you need to keep taking feedback. You have got people, are they happy? So at our workplace, we have a specific person assigned, and when we are dealing with the third gender, or when we are doing with, dealing with our specially able staff, the numbers are routed to me. It's a stretch on your bandwidth, but you want to do it, no? Because you want to be successful at what you did. If you want to be successful, you really have to put in that extra effort. Because if you say that I will delegate this also, because this is not a transaction, this is an investment. And like somebody had always said that, when you're hiring somebody, for everybody, it's irrespective, it is that trust. And this I have learned from my ex-super bosses. Once when somebody was getting scolded and said that, these 100 appointment letters you think it is, but it is that one appointment letter for that person, so it has to be stapled right. Very small thing. This is that wow element you create. We recently had a investor visit, an audit, and somebody just, asked, the auditor asked one of my trans staff, how do you come to this depot? There is no specific washroom. We didn't train them. I swear didn't train them. And I was in there, and this person says, and not at a very, very competent job, I would say, but still at a baseline. She said, I have a choice. I can go to either. And this is what you build in. You build in that culture. So they know they have the choice. Choice is always there, how you exercise it. I hope that helps.
Yeah, perfect. Great. So I think, again, a wonderful example that you need to build the organization, so it's more of not, some specific programs, but the empathy that you bring in and the genuinity of it, that you really want to embrace that diversity and want to create a culture which can be more inclusive. Yeah, so some examples at my place also, where we had somebody and we did a lot of unconscious bias, not with their teams, not with their managers, but also with the staff. Starting from the security guard to a lot of people who serve them, so that to ensure that it doesn't click to them, right? That the person is changing if they are going through the journey of gender change. So there's a lot of physical changes that starts appearing. There's a lot of change in the voice. There's a lot of challenges that person faces. So how, as an organization, we can support by training all the people who deal with that person, so that they don't treat that person as somebody very different. Great. So with that, I would like to move to you, Priyanka. So I would like to ask, we talked about diversity, we talked about, creating some length of, inclusiveness. So what do you think of equity, right? And how do you think that organizations can really, really become or adapt, equity and actually also showcase it in their processes and programs to the people?
Thanks for the question. I'm going to answer it in two ways, one with a story and then what organizations can do in terms of a framework. The first one, when I have two children, most of my leadership lessons come from children in sports. Because it makes it easy for people to, kind of listen to it, if not understand and take the next step. So we went to a cinema hall, and there are seats which are there for everybody. One is 8 years old, the other one is a teenager who's 15, 16 years old. Of course, their needs are different. The movie can be the same, right? So when they sit on the seat, one cannot see it very properly because there'll be a person in front of him, and therefore his view will not be straight and direct. PVR does a great job of giving booster seats. I don't know if some of you have been with children. So they give this little cushion kind of a thing to children who are not of a certain height so that their view is direct and perfect. The watching of the cinema is the same, but can you give those booster seats at work? That is the question you need to ask. Therefore, you have to have a lens of looking at employees differently. Now, can you use technology to do that personalization where you say that the training needs of people are different, and therefore can I personalize that who is that 8-year-old and who's that 15-year-old in terms of understanding and age, so that you can give the booster seat to some of them. Not all would require. That's point one. Personalization automation will help you to drive training needs, bonuses, salaries. So you can personalize the entire journey of an employee depending on the data points to ensure that where is the booster required. Insurance. Not everybody needs insurance for parents, etc., but our policies are, exactly the same and uniform. So we do this work for our clients where what we do is map the entire employee journey. And where is it that you need those booster seats? Can the business afford it? Start with affordability also. You can't always afford it, and hence it's okay. Can I afford it in those 1 or 2 priority areas where the booster seats can be required? Because personalizing anything will require cost. And can I get business and business value for it? Make a model. And that's where I will request HR to essentially look at numbers very deeply to say, where do I have that cost and what benefit will I get? Because the business head or the CEO will never say no to you if you can show that value. And you say that, right, I'm getting, X number of people in, but I'm going to have them trained on digital and AI, and therefore when they go back to business, this is what they can get. Right? And it has to be very specific in terms. So point number one, personalization in terms of the entire employee journey using data, whether it's automated, not automated, is point number one to get in that equity. Point number two is governance. You could have trained that person, but the person is not using it. Have you created that opportunity for the person to use it? So creating that opportunity for the person to use it and then monitoring it. So that's point number two. And point number three is ensuring that you show that impact to the rest of the people in terms of making that person the model. Show that. Because when you celebrate these journeys, equity is celebrated, and therefore people understand it better, and therefore it goes in the business model as one of the assumptions like raw material does. So, because everybody looks at raw material, we don't question, do we need raw material cost, do we need to localize it or not? But equity is questioned. The reason it is questioned, it's not celebrated, and the business value of it is not shown. I liked what somebody in the other panel said. If you take it to numbers, definitely, we are here in for profit. Therefore, if you take it as a number, that, because of equity, this is what happened, definitely it will form part of the business plan itself. So doing it in these three ways, it will really help showing that booster seat. But just going and saying, booster seat chahiye, view acha hota hai, people will be like, theek hai, at times it may not be that good, it may not. Hence, connecting it to business value, showing what you're going to do, going a little more deeper into the problem will really help. That's the reason.
Yeah, perfect. And then as somebody said in the previous session also, that it's all about business, right? Ultimately, you are not selling any HR practice to your CEO. They'll say, okay, what's there in for me? So you have to talk about what is there for them to have those investments in the business. So there is a study by McKinsey which suggests that organizations who are diverse, who are in the top quartile of diversity, they do 36% better in their financial growth or numbers in comparison to the people who are, or companies who are in median. So this suggests,
Deepti,
right,
I'm
that
from Grand Thornton. I've not heard of this firm's name. Can you
Mackenzie, you have not heard?
I've never heard.
Yeah, so that's endorsement. I liked it. Yeah.
We love competition, so
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
know.
joking about
And
it.
I love the people who love their job and organization so much. So wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So I think, so these are very thought-provoking. And then as Rajeshwari sir rightly said, that it's not about just doing HR, it's knowing your business, right? So knowing what you are proposing, what you are doing really make a difference and help us build the organizations that we want to build for future. So I think we are already on the top of the hour, so I'll not ask more questions, but the last question to both of you. So now, today we are talking about 2025 trend, right? How the organizations are emerging and how do you see organizations emerging? So what do you see, how DEI will look like, in the future, in 2-3 years, especially when we have very, very, different perspective coming up from some of the developed countries, where some of the organizations are rolling back their DEI policies, right? So to both of you, anyone?
I could go, yeah. So whether DEI is rolled out or rolled in, I think it's here to stay, in developed countries or developing countries. And the reason could be that it's not, you don't necessarily need a DEI manager or senior manager or director as a position to hold it. Everybody will have to do DEI because there is thought difference, there's gender difference, there's age difference, technology difference, and I don't want to go out into all of the difference that you'll have. How will you manage conflict till the time you don't, chase it and reflect on it? But the first thing that you need to do as organizations is think of what is DEI for you. Because DEI for every organization from a business imperative will be very different. And it has to be linked to business. What does the definition of DEI mean to you? I'll give you an example. Auto companies were not using women on the shop floor. And very recently, last 2 years, 3 years, you see a lot of women on the shop floor now. The reason is not that suddenly the promoter, and I love my clients, some of them are great promoters, and it's not that suddenly they understood the definition of DEI and suddenly these women are there on the shop floor. The demand has been created because there is less labor in some of these cities, and therefore you need the women to be there on the shop floor, and also because now you don't need so much of manual work, the cranes, etc. have changed, and therefore you can have women there. And therefore the business case for it is ready. Once the business case is ready, I think it will happen automatically. So point number one, what's your DEI definition? Don't copy paste here. It will be different to every company, and it need not be the same. You don't need to do a particular DEI because the second company is doing it. You need to do it as per your geography, as per your company, industry, etc. Point number two, then you need to put it as part of the business case and relentlessly follow it. So, have an impact and value and governance around it. The minute you put it in numbers and measure the effort rather than the impact only. By saying, effort is, okay, we all say leadership is only 14%. Angel investors are only 1% in terms of gender. Independent directors are only 19%. Our workforce is only 30%. But what is it that we are doing about it? The needle will not move if we don't measure the effort. Effort being, if I'm getting 3 resumes on the table and I have to hire 1 person, have I got 1 women's resume itself? I like your point about not compromising on the skill and the competency, but put that effort. Question more on the effort rather than the impact. We have so many meetings where everybody is just questioning the impact. What about the effort? Look at the way the women's landscape changed in India just because you had a policy which definitely allowed 1 woman independent director necessarily to be there. Numbers changed. They changed from 7% to 19% as we sit today. I can talk about all of it for 2, 3, 20 hours, so I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Rajani, but my point being strategy, intent, define your DEI definition, have governance around it, measure not just the impact, but your effort as well.
Yeah, and actually, yes, we are HR people. HR plus mic, very deadly combination. We don't like leaving it. So, yes, I'll also try and keep it as crisp. DEI, like Priyanka rightly said, it is definitely what do you want to get out of it. And if you are very sure you are doing it, and there is no harm, I always say that to my own I would say my own P firm as well, Eversource, I tell them also that there is no harm if you're doing it for the investors, but do it with the right intent. Don't magnify the intent to show them this is it and this is not. So somebody recently visited us and said that, you know, you're doing far more, there is so much more. I was like, no, there is a lot more to be done. What we have done till now looks right, seems right, because nobody else was doing it. So when there is no competition to it, you feel you're doing great. So first you have to have benchmarks. Who are you doing it against? What are you doing it for? So, and very critically that DI with merit is uncompromisable, because don't make it a CSR. Don't. This is not CSR. You're doing it for your own business. If I today have around 20 coach captains women in a particular depot driving a 16-ton vehicle, it is difficult. It is very, very difficult. Training needs are different. Everything is different. First thing is you need a heavy motor vehicle license for 3 years. So, you know, not many have. But you would be surprised. The first lady coach captain, we call them coach captains and not drivers. So the first lady coach captain I had hired for UP she was a Formula race driver who could never do that full-fledged. And she drove the chief minister when he had inaugurated the session. And you know, the query she had with me, the first helpline call was, can you please give me a little later shift? I have to prepare dabbas for my husband and my children. See, so much more we talk about it. At the end of the day, there is an ecosystem. It's our culture. It's how we do. Like Priyanka rightly said in the beginning, who is better at what job? But at lot of stances and chances in life, it is not who is better at that job, my dear friend, but it is who will do that job irrespective whether you're better or not, because the other person is not showing too much willingness. See, this is a societal jinx.
No, absolutely. I said, for me it has worked.
No, it is great, because that is how we also operate. I always say that any woman, any other person, every person who's successful is successful because of support. The support could be the same gender, like our mothers in our case, or it could be your spouses. You need everybody. You can't. The plant needs sun, water, the air, everything. So it is not one. So everybody contributes together. D&I, and like you said, why for the other economies, what they are doing, India's DI journey is superbly different and it stands out. Where the West still thinks DEI as gender. We have moved to skill, we've moved to age, we've moved to second careers, we've moved to people with, challenges around latitudinal thinking, longitudinal thinking. We've moved across. We have done so much more. And today, I also at times, when I kind of encourage or tell the other investors or other people who are coming to our organizations, and we want to talk about other matrices on D&I, they are still there. They're still there. So what people think beyond, I will just quote this last, saying that एक ही उल्लू काफ़ी है गुलिस्तान डुबाने के लिए, और जहाँ हर शाख पे उल्लू बैठे हैं, आप समझ लीजिए अंजाम गुलिस्तान क्या होगा.
So not only the man himself, his shagird, I mean, you're saying they equally fiery on the stage. So very well said by Priyanka and Rajani. So it's not about having a copy-paste of any policy. There has to be a real intention, not to do it for investors or for compliances, but do because it is really something that makes organizations thrive. Believe me, if you're not inclusive, and I tell you, and we'll open it up for questions, when my daughter, she's grown up now, she was in 8th standard when I was preparing some speech for, there was something I was representing in one of the colleges, and the topic was women leadership. And she just read it. She said, Mom, shall I tell you something? Glass ceiling is only there if you see it. An 8th standard girl telling this to me, that glass ceiling. So this generation is hitting the organizations. They don't see glass ceiling. So please don't. So prepare your organizations in a way that is more embracing, this diversity, and is more open for experimentation. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very challenging times for the organizations. So any questions after, and thank you for a wonderful session, Rajani and Priyanka. So we will open it up for discussions, anything that you would want to ask. So we have 3 people, yeah. So, yeah, please, I don't know your name. Yeah.
How HR balances the intersectional identities. For example, not only gender, it will include race and disability people. For example, any black woman who is disabled, like how will, while designing the inclusivity programs for all, for example, the black woman who is disabled, they will face challenges while single-focused programs overlook. How they will manage?
Okay, so at least for, we've done this for organizations, so I can talk about at least the part that when people are physically challenged, if I can call that. One of the areas that you really need to look at is the workplace design. And the workplace design, it's interesting that, we'll have so many biases, we'll only make sure that the person has come in. What after that? What about the bathrooms, maybe today new design has it. What about some of the tables in conference rooms, when the person has to go to the conference room? Maybe we've just made one table for this person, but is that really inclusive? So it's very difficult. There's no right answer because there is a cost to everything. You can't change all the rooms now. You can't change, the entire ecosystem of that office. But what we've done is, for these offices, is that the workplace design is made in such a way that not just the person comes in, but we then run an entire scenario in a day to see that what that person would do, like getting water. Now the water, maybe it's a little high up. What can we do? Because every time if you're giving water also to the person, that person will not like it, right? Because you've not made it inclusive. It's not scalable, it's not sustainable. That's the question to ask. That if I were to just get one person, but 10 more such people, would this model work? And therefore run it for the entire journey for that day, see what are the points of contact and can that workplace be made inclusive. If not, it is better not to get the person in because then you will not be able to retain that person, right? So hence, it's better to get in the person when the workplace is ready from a physical point of view. Then there are, of course, other challenges in terms of how people, perceive the person, hence the training, etc. of people is required. What role are you giving to the person is also very important. So, charting out that role. So these are the 3 things at least we have done. I think we are in a very nascent stage to think big. There's a very good company called Ramp Up My City. We take their help also and they help us to design such workplaces. So I'm sharing the names so that we don't share otherwise, but with his permission, I'm sharing it so that you can take their help also and they'll design it end to end for you.
You could also see to create any kind of an atmosphere. Inclusivity is creating an atmosphere. So logistical part, like Priyanka said, but in terms of the aptitude to absorb what is coming in, you should genuinely lead it by talk, walk the talk is how we say. So we have we have a care policy, and every month, 15 minutes, we handpick HODs and they talk about it. Because when everybody is talking about it, it's there. But when only one person, only the HR head is speaking about it, it's not there. So we do that. Second thing, when you're talking about inclusivity, maybe you're not completely ready, like Priyanka said. Then what are you doing in terms of that compassion? In a country like India, a lot can be compensated with compassion. And you should use that. There are no brownie points, and it's not much of an effort. It is just the beautiful you to be seen outside. So the more compassion, it becomes easier and more inclusive. Yeah?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You want to share an experience, please?
One of the things that I do, I'm a co-founder of a small HR startup called Zing HR. We are about 700 people. And we have about 11 visually challenged employees. They can't see. And thanks to technology, they are able to do a fantastic level of work. And we basically take a lot of care of them. And one day, one lady came to us and said that, I have a request. And the request is that please do not treat us specially. Please treat us like you treat others. So on one side is a lot of policies can help, but ultimately it's about the dil. Okay, and that's what you need to build in organizations. Thank you.
One similar, I'll take 1 second. So we hired somebody, a chartered accountant, one of the campus drive. He was, his body, he was paralyzed almost at the lower side of his body, and therefore on wheelchairs. So hiring was easy, but then creating that logistics was the other important part. So we realized, and we talked to our admin team, a washroom and everything, how he'll use, what we do. The admin team came back, said only CEO, the specific washroom that CEO has can be amended because they have the platform where we can create that ramp. And then I would say again, it's about empathy and culture, and he happily agreed that his washroom can be transformed for that person to be used. So these are small things that add a lot of value than we writing about DIB policies and all. Perfect. So I saw one, so I would want to be more diverse. So yeah, so there is one hand of male colleague here. Yeah, please. So we have one, now we can take only one question, so we'll end with you. Yeah.
Sorry, it came out of my brain. Ma'am, law is also asking for it. 2.5% of different able people. Government is also asking for it. Handrails and elevators are also becoming mandatory nowadays. Okay. My question to all of you, ma'am. E. If I said tusharddesai@gmail.com, you know where @ comes. Is E becoming @? Yeah. Am I audible now? Yeah, better, sir? Yeah. When I said tusharddesai@gmail.com, you know where A is going to come @ before Gmail. So is E becoming @? Diversity, yes. Caste, creed, religion, sex, sexual orientation. Yeah. Okay.
Now we are thorough with it. It becomes rather towards inclusive. But where is E? Equitability. Where are we equitable? It is not about giving employer stock option program. But would it require parity, not in terms of compensation, but training needs? Subordinate who takes a 7 minute smoking break is reprimanded by a leader who has taken 3 hours of coffee vending machine break. Such things happen, right? So where is E coming, is going to come from in a country like ours?
So it's not about our country. I think there is a little bit of bias which maybe you are dealing with. I think it's across. I've worked across, and the way we deal people, more or less, it is similar. Trust me. So it's got nothing to do with the country first. First thing, second thing, E is the most important thing for you to make it sustainable. So there are organizations which do so many things, but they don't talk about it. And yet, when you look at their data, people haven't left them. People are, the sense of pride, the sense of belongingness is so high, they are the right ambassadors of that organization. So, you know, you don't have to maybe profitize that so much. You may not want to orchestrize so much, but you may want to just walk the talk, like I just said. And to make it sustainable and to make it the ethos of your organization, equity is very important. Pay parity, a lot of people think that, a male colleague to female colleague can be less. It's not true in today's time. Why? Because they're similar jobs. We have a habit of discussion or around our compensation, our spends are nothing. So that is how we are. That is how all of us are, very chatty about something which should be so discreet. So those days are a little dated. Today, equity in terms of their pay parity, equity in terms of giving equal respect. Respect comes with what you bring to table. Respect has nothing to do with your gender. Respect has nothing to do with how senior or junior you are. Respect is give and take. And that is how it is. And the third line of equity, where you say that, the manager and subordinate not being treated equal, I think what is very essential is, whatever wrong you do in terms of not being true to yourself, like Priyanka had highlighted in the beginning, it is about you. So if you know you're driving it right, a lot of things around you will get right. But if you are looking at it with a critical lens that, this is not how it should be, then maybe you are dissecting it when you are not the doctor. I would just leave it to that. Sorry, I hope it helps.
Yeah. And if your managers still believe that spending 3 hours is waste of time, then possibly he's putting himself or herself in trouble, because the new generation is not going to accept it, what you are accepting, as a norm. So equity is, so of course there are some challenges in the organizations in terms of actually practicing, but it will evolve for sure. So on that note, thank you to my panel, Rajani and Priyanka, for a wonderful job and sharing their insights. I hope, and I think we don't need to summarize as well, it was done well. The only thing I would like to say in style that कहानियाँ बहुत लिखी हैं पर अभी भी कुछ पन्ने सफ़ेद हैं. So there is a lot of things that you can still write and make the organizations grow and take them to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all the panel members.